Yes, welcome back to the Big Dogs podcast. To my left, Supercoach Adam Ashe, and further to his left, John Cullen, better known as JC, the newest member of the Chicago Hounds, came back into the fray of the MLR last week, and he made a good showing of himself. JC, welcome back to the MLR. Welcome to the Chicago Hounds. Just let everybody know about. Obviously, you played with Utah a few years ago, played for the USA Eagles. Talk to me about Utah Eagles hiatus, Chicago Hounds.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, thanks for having me here in Chicago and on the podcast. Utah was kind of like a second home, essentially. Having gone to college there, played quite a bit of rugby there. The timeline's a little different. I had my USA time actually in my Seattle club rugby time, which is why I have some strange connections with some of the Seawolves guys. But yeah, it was Eagle time. An unfortunate not making the World Cup 2015 World Cup.
England, it was in, not Scotland.
That's right.
I was talking to him earlier and he said Scotland. It was.
Oh, yeah. So not making that, I moved to Montana to our family farm for a bit. And I was actually just telling Ashe, that's actually when I made the decision to join the service because, kind of had some of those tough kind of U.S. player dilemma conversations where you're like, okay, do I want to keep doing this club rugby stuff? Do I want to, keep going? And then, yeah, I made the decision to join the service. I joined the Utah National Guard. So kind of the best of both worlds, be back in a place that I considered home, serve my country, and then as the MLR got started, be able to play professional rugby as well. There's some wild stories of that in the early years of timings and drill dates and game days, but it was a pretty cool experience to be able to serve your country, live in a place you want to live, and play professional rugby all at the same time was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, let's just pause there for a second. Did you serve your country? Did you ever go out in combat?
I did not do anything in combat. I was a combat medic, actually, so we had a lot of stuff for like national disaster relief. As a medic, I did a lot for the COVID relief, and then some of our domestic things that happened around that time. I was there to help out with a lot of the BLM George Floyd times. We were activated for things such as that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Right, back to your journey.
Played for Utah for 3 years. Plus one of the little early entry year when we were all just making it up of us, actually Austin and the artist formerly known as Glendale. Yep. Had our little trifecta of trying to get this MLR going, and and then 3 years with the Warriors. Had what I would consider an unfortunate ending there, but it's a professional sport. It is what it is. The wife is originally from Iowa. I actually met her when we were out here on a jump for training.
What was she doing?
She was just out and about. We had a night out, saw a beautiful woman in a black dress and red lipstick, and my opening line was a high five as she walked by. And then
like Borat.
Yeah, just a little. I put it out there. She high-fived me back. I bought her a drink, and yeah, here we are. And then 2 years in Iowa so far. I was doing a lot of coaching. As I joked with Sam, staying in enough shape to demonstrate a drill to not embarrass myself, but and jumping into a club rugby game every once in a while. And if Sam wanted to see some dynamic Division II fly half play, I had plenty of tape to send him before I got here.
Genuinely.
Yeah, 100%. And so, and then obviously a friendly text message from a teammate and a phone call with Sam and James, and was in the car and here.
Nice. And then, so you were telling me earlier on about when you started off at Utah, so you were working in the prison at the same time. Was that right at the start of your time at Utah?
Yeah.
What was your day like? It sounded absolutely hectic.
Yeah, so this is kind of a unique one, being, you know, a first-year MLR guy. I share this story with a lot of young players and a lot of young people, and their faces kind of drop. It's pretty funny, but so early on, the Warriors dynamic of the team was a large amount of Utah guys that either went to the University of Utah or BYU or from there, right? So, and with like the LDS culture in Utah, a lot of jobs, families, kids, right? So very established. So our schedule, we practiced from 6:30 to 10 at night. Obviously, you guys know we had the indoor facility, great facilities and whatnot. So I worked at the Utah State Prison. I was a medic there at the prison, and my hours were 6 to 6. So I worked 4 12s. So 4 to 4, up at 5, drive down because I lived in Salt Lake City. Up at 5, get to work. Had it worked out with our S&C guy. I could lift at the prison, so we had the prison gym
with the inmates.
No, yeah, I would try to tell that story, but no, it looked like you were still in a caged gym. It was just for the officers and employees, so I'd get my lift in on my lunch break, and then get off at 6. Thankfully, it was close. That made it nice, and drive up to practice 6:30 to 10, and then rinse and recycle. So yeah, if I was on my 4-day during a work week, I mean, gosh, it was about a 18, 19-hour day.
Jeez, just as well. The season's only 6 months long.
Yeah,
you know, like if you had to do that year round, that'd be difficult.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah,
you kind of got lucky if I had like a 4 off during a week. I still kind of joke now, even now, is like, oh man, this is easy. We just have to show up and practice every day, and then I go home. I was like, this is awesome. Like, what am I supposed to do with my whole day?
Yeah. Jeez, yeah.
Yep. So Dakota Worth, he was the infamous man who put us in touch, and we had quite a candid phone conversation for about half an hour before you made the trek down to see if you could train with us and then see if we could make something of this. And then you get to start last weekend. I wanted to give you some time against Seattle, but the Lightning had other ideas. And then you get thrown into the starting team. How was playing after 2 or 3 years off MLR? Right?
Yeah, it was great. I was just chatting with Ashe before this. I think, the gameplay and contact and physicality and tackle and passing is maybe some of the stuff you don't lose, or it comes back a lot quicker. Where we're talking about like, oh, I think my foot's placement's a little bit off on this line out, or my hand. Like those are the things that you're like, oh yeah, I don't do these drills every day. But no, it was awesome. Yeah, I was kind of joking. I was like, my younger years, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. Now I'm like, yeah, that 20 minutes against Seattle would have been nice before this. I mean, my eyebrows kind of popped up when I saw my name on the screen last week, but I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, and then thrown into the baptism of fire against a red-hot Houston forward pack that are the big and physical. So you were tested there. What did you think of Houston and the game?
Yeah, obviously a really good team. They're playing well. I think there's no question that they've leaned heavily into their identity, what they do. What we talked about all week. Not a lot of surprises, but they do what they do, and they do it well. They execute. They know exactly who they are, what they are, and you can see it when they play. And they're playing very well at the moment. They're back in their system.
Yep. From you've been part of the system, our system, for 3 weeks now. 4 weeks. What are your thoughts of Chicago and Chicago Hounds?
Yeah, the city's great. I've probably become a little bit anti-big city. Having grown up in LA, surprisingly enough, and lived in big cities, I've turned into a huge complainer about traffic and parking. But the city's great. I mean, it's been awesome. Chicago as a city's phenomenal. I love the food, love the downtown area. It's been great. I think I probably share the same thoughts as the rest of the boys. I think there's just a genuine frustration based on a lot of like expectations and self standards that a lot of people aren't maybe living up to is a bit harsh, but not showing. And I had a conversation with one of the players, and a lot of the outside noise was they thought it was ego, and I was like, I've been around a lot of teams. I haven't seen anything with ego. There's genuine frustration with a lot of want and a lot of will, and the clicking or figuring, that mystical thing that we all wonder what it is. But it's been a great group to come into. I mean, it was a very strange experience for myself coming into a team for the first time. I'd never done that. I was as much of a Utah guy as you could possibly be, and so that was a very unique experience for me. But the way the guys, when I got here, and have brought me in and helped out, with the little things and getting support from the boys on getting a start, it's been amazing.
Who's been the standout in that area? Who's been the most supportive? Or
Lukey's up there, but me and Luke have such a history of playing against each other and with each other and all of that, so that was pretty natural.
For the listener at home, that's Luke White.
Luke White,
yep.
Yeah. Obviously Dak, just having played together and been friends, but everyone else is. I mean, any questions I've had, I was sitting there, bending Mikey and Beachy's ear on line out calls and things like that, and sitting at desks trying to catch up to speed.
Yeah. What was it like? So when you came from football into rugby and transitioned into rugby for the first time, what was that like?
It was awesome. It was the same reason I fell in love with it in high school. So I was an offensive lineman my whole life. Like as a kid, I was a center, which is, when you grow up, it's an awesome position, but as a kid, it's the worst. Like you have to learn how to snap. You don't get to do anything. You just block people all day. My whole entire life, I was an offensive lineman. I played some defense in high school and whatnot. But, you just block. You beg your coach every year that you do sprints with all the other offensive linemen. And if you're the fastest, everyone just tries to run those weird, like, tackle bubble screens that they never, ever run. But you just beg for it all the time. People, I've answered this question probably a million times, and it's a runaway of rugby. As a former O lineman, like I get to tackle, run, pass, hit, score. Like, it's not even close. But the transition was a little strange because when I went back to college, and I was used to like college football locker room, trainers, medical staff, my laundry being done every day, like all this stuff, and then I'm back with like college rugby. Like we practice from 10 to midnight. Because so we could get the indoor in the winter, because there's one indoor facility on campus, and then 15 passenger vans to 10-hour drives to California, Colorado, and stuff like that. So you're like right back in it on 10-hour van rides compared to skipping the special entrance at the airport for the chartered flight to the away game. So that one, which I knew it was gonna happen, but it's always so funny. You forget how spoiled you are as a college football player when you go play some college club rugby.
Yeah, I bet it was a bit of a transition. In terms of like the atmosphere of like rugby and its values, like what was it like for you stepping into that, like off the field more than on the field? Yeah,
it was a longer learning curve than I thought. I thought I had it figured out, and I had a couple instances where I was told very directly that I did not. And it was just things you didn't think about or know. It's just the nuances of the sport, and what I would say is why people love it so much and why we love it so much is the locker room dynamics and the interactions between coaches and players and things like that. Where football, especially if you start getting to high level college or the NFL, that those relationships are very different. Like me coming in to this team, the way I was welcomed and helped, like, hey, like you're one of us. Like let's get going. Like you do that in the NFL, and you're just another dude trying to take someone's job. So it's total. I mean, night and day difference. It's wild.
That kind of leads me to my question, which was going to be like, what you're quite an old soul, yeah? You're not that old. How old are you?
32.
32. Yep. So for a lock, that's a good age.
Mm-hmm.
But I have heard stories from you and other people that the young JC was very different to the old or the JC we know now. So talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I look back. I have some moments that I look back on with my rugby career. Not that I regret, but just a couple where you're like, "What the hell are you doing, man? Like, come on."
Don't we all?
Yeah. And as a younger player, when I first made the not the first made the switch because I played in high school, but the big switch after college football and the NFL, it was always coming from a place like I grew up in a. My wife laughs at this joke because I grew up in a small city in California. She grew up in a small town in Iowa. Like I had 800 people in my graduating class. She had like 50. Yeah. But it was like we were a small school. I wasn't recruited. Like I always technically for football I was undersized. Like I was a very small offensive lineman. So I was like always chip on my shoulder, always like the underdog, have to outwork. Like I wasn't better than anyone when I played O-line. I just worked harder than everyone and didn't want, that's what it was in my head. So when I got to rugby, I brought that, but I brought it in a very football, like look at me, like look what I'm doing type of mentality. And you just came off as like an arrogant prick who didn't appreciate the opportunity that he had. I came off as if I was expected to be here and should be here, and you just come off as a prick. And I didn't realize, because like in my head I was like, no, it's coming from this, like when I did the feedback with some of the coaches, like no, it was genuinely coming from this competitive, like I thought I was being competitive, I thought I was doing all this stuff, and they're like, no, you're being an ass, like get out of here. And I had some stuff going on at home, and it was kind of this little whirlwind. Never had a situation where I wasn't like starting or part of a team before, and then you get to test level rugby, and I'm not even in the 23, like moving bags and pulling water for stuff, and you always have that voice like, no, this isn't me, I'm gonna play. But I think the biggest thing I've learned is the balance between like that positive and negative ego, and the trouble it can get you in has been probably one of the biggest things I've learned. And when you like the people will think it's funny or this or that, like, oh yeah, I thought you were just the biggest asshole in the world, and then I met you, and you're awesome. I was like, well, I don't want people to think I'm the biggest like if I'm on the field, sure, I don't want to be your friend, of course, but it's like, I don't want my teammates to think I was a huge asshole. And then it took them 6 months to be like, oh no, you're awesome. I don't know if anyone said that, but they said, you're a good guy.
It's funny you say that. Like you probably think the same. Like most I was an asshole. Because like that's definitely not the impression you give off now. Like if you were to ask, or if someone was to ask us what you think of JC, how's he come across, we'd probably say, oh, he's quite balanced, like probably quite mellow, like can focus, has an edge, but it's quite well balanced. Has that just been a kind of evolution of you over time? Like,
oh yeah. Because it was all edge before, and I mean, just was kind of angrier kid. I got picked on when I was a kid, like all the normal stuff, and you just kind of like build up the calluses and the edge. And I was very abrasive in the way I spoke to people. I was very like I disguised it as like being like, oh no, I'm just honest and blunt and straightforward. It's like, yeah, but you're being a dick. Like, you can be straightforward and honest, and you could be genuine. You don't have to be like harsh and abrasive, and it all came off that way. And I think just as a young man and a young person and player, you hope. I'm glad I learned from that because I didn't want to come off that way. I'll always want to be honest and straightforward and much more genuine than coming off as harsh and abrasive because you guys have seen it. Like, you can MF someone and it goes nowhere. You put an arm around someone, they could be a completely different person.
So. Would you say it was those conversations with those coaches that sparked that like change, or was there like other things like?
It was probably multiple. That email stuck with me for a really long time. I think because I was somewhat so blindsiding because I could not comprehend how I was not playing. Like, I was like younger, I was bigger, I was stronger, I was faster, like all these things. I'm doing well in like not like I was doing well in training. I was doing all the things. I was like, I do not understand. Like, this doesn't make any sense because like the world that I came from, if you're bigger, stronger, faster, younger, you're playing. Yeah. Where there's so many other things, especially putting together like a test match. There's so many other things that go into
experience.
So much. And like the funniest part about it now is like staying in the game so long and switching to a bit of the coaching, leaning into the coaching side a lot was like, I look back now, I was like, the only regret I had is like, man, I wish I knew the things I knew now when I was 25, 26. It was like, I joke with people now, I was like, I should have had no business being on a test match. I had no idea how to play rugby. Not a clue. Yeah. No, like knowing how to see a field now and understand things. Like, I had no clue. It was like, oh, I'm here. There's a gap there. I'm going there as hard as fast as I can. Or there's someone in front of me. I'm going to hit them, which like we can all make rugby sound like that. But, there's so much more to it. I was like, I look back on my days there where I'd had that attitude, like I should be playing on this and that. And I'm like, you had no business even being in the camp. Yeah. Like, you're lucky you were taller, faster, whatever. So that played into it too. It's like, you don't know what you don't know, and then when you learn it, you're like,
you're humbled.
You're so humbled. You're like, that's what all those guys were trying to tell me when they're like, oh no, you should. I got it. And like, well, no, you don't, and you don't listen, and then it's like, oh, I didn't have it at all. Should have listened.
Yeah. So I'm guessing back then you're quite aspirational. It sounds like you were. You don't need to confirm that. 5 weeks ago, you were sitting in Des Moines, Iowa. Was that right?
Cedar Falls,
Iowa. You're getting some personal businesses going. You're doing a bit of coaching of rugby. Now you're starting MLR. So, like, what do you rearrange your goals, or where are you at with aspirations towards rugby at this stage?
Did you text my wife? We had this. If I'm being completely honest, I probably haven't even allowed myself to think that way. Yep. I made a joke yesterday, and thankfully my wife laughed and someone else did. But I was like, if on June 18th I still have a job and a marriage, this has been the most successful rugby experience I've ever had in my life. So I don't think I've allowed myself to think that way. Just with so many other intangibles, it's actually kind of been a little relieving where it's like I'm just locked. When I'm here, I'm locked in. I want to do the best I can. I've got some little things that I still need to learn and catch up on and be at full speed. And that's kind of kept my main focus is probably a little. I don't have the right word. Maybe a little extra. Not weight. I can't think of the right word. But the fact that I've only been here for a short time and I am starting, I'm like the type like, hey, you need to show that you deserve that. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't need to be thinking about anything else. You need to show for 40, 60, 80 minutes that you deserve to be here. Yeah. So then there's work stuff and business stuff, but this stuff's kind of easy, and it's not as interesting as what we do.
You
can
only play rugby.
I can only play for so long. I can always go get a job.
Yep. Yeah, and so with all the learning and stuff you've you got to know Dave Clancy pretty well, front and centre today with a lot of the attack stuff. Out of 10, how do you rate him as a coach?
Oh man, I saw you guys do this to Mark. Those are the worst. Those are the worst questions ever. I'm just gonna putting everyone at an 8.5.
Ooh,
or a 7.5. Or sorry, no, a 2, a 3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Wait, you jumped over everywhere there.
Well, I know what you did to Mark on the last one, where 1 is the best.
Yep, but you went 3.5 today.
3.5. Yeah.
This week it's standard, like 10 is the best.
Oh, my God.
so you're giving Clancy a 3.5. Jeez,
Yeah.
he's had a rough old couple of weeks, hasn't he, Clancy?
It's been hard.
It's okay.
Yeah, but
It'll average out at the end of the
I
season.
don't think he watches this, so I think he'll be all right. Let's move to the hot minute. Hey,
Let's do it. Yeah.
let's give you some questions and you just fire back answers.
There we go.
We'll get into it. Eh? So let's first of all, tattoos or clean skin.
Well, for myself, obviously, tattoos.
Mhm.
For others, tattoos.
Yep.
Nice. More bikes or trucks?
Trucks.
Cuisine, Italian or Texas barbecue.
Oh, that's horrible. Probably Italian, to be fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
Planes or helicopters?
Helicopters. Helicopter.
You jumped out a few?
Yes, 1,000%. Jumping out of planes sucks. Jumping out of helicopters is awesome.
Yeah, nice.
Doors this small on a helicopter or on a plane, you get to jump out the entire back of a helicopter. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Planes suck.
Studs on your boots, 18 mil or 21s?
18.
Yep.
I saw 21s for the first time ever in New Zealand, and I was like, these can't be. You cannot play rugby in these. And then I played rugby in New Zealand in the winter for the
Yep.
first time ever, and I was like, oh, you have to play
Yeah.
in 21 millimeter studs.
You guys probably could have done with some last week. I'm
I
not sure.
know. Pro football or pro rugby?
Pro rugby.
Basketball or baseball?
Soccer. Basketball, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably basketball.
Line out or scrum?
Scrum.
The V8 engine.
I mean, yeah, winning lineouts is a thing of beauty, but dominating another team in a scrum, that's up there.
Beer or liquor?
Liquor.
What's your drink of choice there?
Usually a whiskey drinker.
Yep.
Bourbon guy.
Nice.
Utah or Chicago?
Both. Utah is the high school sweetheart, first love. They'll always be there, but Chicago's the one you marry, settle down with long term.
Nice. Movies, comedy or action?
Oh man, I probably should say action, but if I'm being honest, probably comedy.
Mall or ruck?
Mall.
Scoring
Rucks are too close to the ground.
Yeah.
scoring a try or making a big tackle?
Oh, that's horrible. Which one changes the game the most?
Then the $1 million question.
Deep dish or Polish sausage?
Polish sausage. Deep dish, it takes too much effort and time. You can go anywhere and grab a good old pole.
Yeah, knew you were a sausage guy. I knew it.
That's cool. I think I wouldn't mind just shifting gears. We haven't really talked about the weekend's game, and just to kind of get in the reads of that a little bit. Obviously, again, not the result we wanted, and we're in a bit of a hole at the moment. But take nothing away from Houston; they're a quality side, and it doesn't get any easier with the Free Jacks this week either. But Ashe, what's your takeaway from the game, and what do you think we need to do to be better?
Yeah, look, I think we struggled to set piece. Like, from my point of view, that's always the area of the game that I'm going to look at and see what's going on. And we didn't perform well. We didn't win enough ball at the line out. Conceded a maul try. Scrum didn't go well. So, as a forward pack, we really have to look at that and ask ourselves some questions as to why that's happening. And again, there's probably just small areas that we're not getting right. Our line out lifts, our scrum, what we're doing in there collectively as an 8. And just, I think we're probably still in the stages of really ironing out who we are, like our identity, and living by that. So yeah, it was a tough game for us. Like, one that I think we probably all came off after it, and we felt like we had been beat. Like it's maybe been a different feeling in previous games. It's been close. But we felt like we'd been kind of beat fairly on the weekend, and for us in the forward pack, learned a lot of lessons, and there's a lot of things that we need to improve on. So for us, like, it's just looking at every day, every session we do, and trying to get the most out of it. And I think if we can do that consistently, make those improvements in training, it should start to show up on the field. So yeah, tough weekend for us. Like, I'm glad in some ways that now it's Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday's out the road, and we're now moving forward, looking forward to the next game and building towards that. But yeah, I guess over the weekend after the game and Monday yesterday, it was a tough couple of days, looking back at that. I don't know, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, I always say that the beauty of rugby is you get to make up for it next week, and whilst a six day week is a lot of work at the front end, it's all the better because we get to play sooner. We get to make up for it, and I like a short week because it just condenses the messaging and it condenses what we can work on and all that stuff. So yeah, my take from the game is, I think it's very hard when you are compromised, and we weren't able to apply pressure in their territory. Whenever they'd have a scrum, they'd scrum us off the park and they'd get a penalty, so they could just get out of their territory pretty easily. Line-outs, we gave up 4 5-metre line-outs on their line and didn't take them cleanly, didn't capitalise, and we're not able to build scoreboard pressure because of a couple of those things. And then, there was a couple of really nice evidences of very good defence, but then there was a couple of really poor where we just switched off and didn't do what our trademarks are in defence, and that's embarrassing as well. When they scored a set piece try, they just went straight through us, and then another one where we just didn't get set early enough, and so all of those things are intertwined. Way too many turnovers, way too many. We would have been close to 30 turnovers for the game, and we're just not giving ourselves a chance. That's my take on it. We're actually beating ourselves, not the opposition. And I agree with you. That was the first game where we thought, we were well and truly beaten, and they were always in control. But in saying that, first 10 minutes we were very good without scoring points. Final 20 minutes, I think in both those stanzas, Houston really struggled to go with us. When we put some continuity together, when we played smart, when we played in the right areas, we showed that it's starting to click, that machine's starting to click, we're starting to figure it out. But it's really hard to win games when you're so compromised. So, we're working very hard to fix those, and hopefully we can do it quick enough to give New England a contest, and then if we're in the position, we can finish it off. But yeah, it's a lot of soul searching, and I put it on the players after the game that I think we're coming up with a lot of excuses when we really just have to look in the mirror and make sure that we do our job rather than pointing fingers at anyone else. And I think if we do that man for man collectively, we'll be a much better team. So we'll see how we go. Yeah,
and then obviously we've just kind of finished off 5 home games here. How's that been? What's it been like playing here? What's it been like with the crowd and the engagement with the fans for the first time?
It's been great. I think it kind of sucks that we had to do 5 in a row when the weather's not very nice. I think, on the weekend it was beautiful, a really good day. Against Utah it was a stunning day, but the 3 in between that was terrible weather. And it's hard to build a fan base when you got 5 in a row, really poor weather, and if you travel and then come back, you get a result, you come back, and it's a little bit more normal. And I feel like we just got the raw prawn with the draw, especially with the weather. We were kind of rolled the dice with that one, but yeah, if we did it again, I'd prefer a much better, more away games. And I think also the element that we missed out on there is when you go away as a team, you kind of bond a little bit more because you're around each other a lot more, and we weren't afforded that opportunity either. But coming back to the home stadium, the fans coming out, like we've got a very loyal fan base that are parochial and loud and like they're edgy, and I love that. That's Chicago. That's it's almost Philadelphia like the way that they cheer for us, which I love. It's just a shame that we're only going to get 3 more games in really nice conditions later on in the season. But I think what it did show that we can host really good events. Hence, we get the MLR final here this year. I did love it. I just would have preferred it the other way, but c'est la vie.
Yeah, what can you do? How does the Chicago crowd compare to the Utah crowd?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Bit more verbal out here. Obviously, I could never say a bad word about the Utah crowd. I mean, we have a great crowd. There's a great rugby culture in Utah. I mean, they're always loud and all that stuff. It was a cool place to play, but I've definitely heard a little bit more edge in the chants from the Chicago crowd than maybe we got from the Utah crowd. But no, I mean, they've been great. Just like Sam said, to do 5 in a row with brutal weather in between, and we're still having people show up on a Saturday, cheer and chant and do all that stuff. I mean, it was late in the game, and we're still getting those hounds chants and barks from the crowd, and put one in over late. I mean, that's pretty incredible for. I mean, you could say we haven't given them enough to be passionate about and cheer for, and they're still here doing it. So that's a credit to the Chicago sports fan base.
Yeah. Mate, we didn't get to ask you what were your thoughts on the game and the performance and moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was frustrating. Obviously, as a tight 5 forward, I mean, there's no other word to be but embarrassed with the things that happened with the scrum and lineouts and things like that. And I will say I would love, we look back on this game because, as you guys said, it was, we came off the field. We'd come off the field previously, and it was all the ifs and buts and maybes and a lot of talking and a lot of chat, and probably a lot more than for my preference. A lot of reasons why something happened, or call it whatever. But I'd love for us to use this and see this as like, hey, all the nonsense that we talked about leading up to this was kind of a bunch of white noise, because we just got beat soundly in the set piece and all this stuff. Like, it's not just going to happen. We have to make it happen regardless of the talent and the ability of the players that we have. You guys coming in from, at the time, 2 of the most successful franchises, or having the most successful seasons, and bringing that together. I think it might be a good thing, because I felt, at least today and whatnot, it stamped out a lot of the kind of white noise, empty chat, and we actually got down to like, hey, this is what we have to do. It's not just like, oh no, yeah, we'll get it. Like, no, we're gonna get it right here in this drill, and then we're gonna move on. Not like, oh, we'll get it. Yeah. And so I would love to be a little that, be a sounding board of, sometimes you get punched in the mouth is the best way to bounce back. Maybe we probably felt like we were taking jabs and we didn't have things quite go our way, but this one was just a nice little punch in the mouth of some honesty.
Yeah. What it needed, and hopefully and I think it will be a turning point for our season for sure. John Cullen, thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure. Really good to get to know you a little bit better too. Ashe, as always, mate, consummate professional and a very good podcaster. That's the Big Dog podcast for this week. Thank you for everybody watching, and see you next week.